Long time no see. This is Level with Me. This is my weekly level design show where I play a video game or a level designy kind of game and pretend I made it and talk about what I think the level design is doing and how I think the world design and environment art and lighting are working. And last time we did some Half-Life 1 and we played all the way through Half-Life 1. I didn't really think of what game to play this time, and all I have installed right now is Half-Life 2. That's the other game I have. So I guess we'll just, continue on with the trend and do some Half-Life 2 now. So let's get to it. I'll just start with Half-Life 2 on Chapter 1 right here. And hopefully it loads. This is a little bit more taxing on my computer than Half-Life 1, so hopefully my computer will be okay. Okay, there we go.
Rise and shine,
Oh, it's too loud.
Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job.
His eyes are so
no
dreamy.
one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until... Well, let's just say your hour has come again.
What's cool is that they actually did import the scene from Half-Life 1 and brought it into Half-Life 2, so that's kind of cool.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
So that's how Half-Life 2 starts. It's literally pretty much taking off from beginning where we left off with Half-Life 1. We were in this star field and talking to that character whose name is the G-Man. And he's like a mysterious figure who we encountered in Half-Life 1, and now he has more character, presumably, in Half-Life 2. So now we're in a train. You can talk with some of them.
I didn't see you get on. Well, no matter how many times I've been relocated, I never get used to it.
They all have the same voice, which is what's kind of weird about Half-Life 2, but you kind of suspend your disbelief. It's better than having one character model for all of them. So we just started on a train, and again, what's kind of cool is that with Half-Life 1, we ended on a train, and now we're beginning Half-Life 2 on a train as well. And this is also kind of Half-Life 2 kind of winking at you. Half-Life 1 started with this really long, 7-minute train ride, and then pretty much every video game started copying them at that point. And now here, you can see they mercifully cut that train ride short in favor of some snappy exposition. So, one cool thing that we're talking about in the chat, I think, is that the way all that works is that the G-Man, in the beginning of that sequence, he's actually being filmed in real time in another part of the map. Let's go ahead and try to find him. As before, I make liberal use of cheats when I play, because I don't really think games are sacred or anything. But let's go ahead and try to find where G-Man's hidden. Oh, I don't know if I'll be able to find him, though. Oh, maybe over here? No, that's another room. Oh, maybe he's over here. Oh no, this is where the guy on the screen is talking. This is his weird little film studio. But this is how games usually do, talking heads or screens. Actually recording all this video is actually pretty intensive to do. It's easier to actually just make a little film studio somewhere else in the map and then hide that from the player and then just render a camera view. Oh dear, and he's missing his legs. Oh well. I don't know where the G... Oh, maybe he's over here. This is where we were in the intro. There's actually 2 different trains, and then it swaps them out. And then here's the recreation of the Half-Life 1 test chamber. You can see that they actually I think they kind of imported all the geometry in here. It's actually kind of cool. Although they did kind of re-detail this, what's called the anti-mess spectrometer. I know that because I'm a Half-Life nerd, but also because I built this section for Black Mesa Source, so I'm like kind of obsessed with this room, and I know way too much about it. But they actually took some creative liberties with the actual design of the machine and made it actually, I think, more interesting looking, I think. It was not nearly this detailed in the original game. But they also keep some other flourishes, right? Like, these are actual textures they ripped out of Half-Life 1. So is this ladder. So is this grating and stuff. So it's kind of cool that they, like, literally ripped stuff from previous games and, like, implant it in the new engine. You see a lot of games do that. Like, spoiler, System Shock 2 does that with System Shock 1. Other games might do that with other games. It's kind of like an homage to previous generations, and it's kind of like also a gesture to the gamer, I think, saying like, look at how far we've come with our technology and all that. Oh, they even import the little window. Well, not really. Oh, and they also have little things spinning. See these things? These are the little probes that lasers shoot out during the sequence. Anyway, that's just like a fun bit of how all these fancy cutscenes and stuff work. They are incorporating live feeds from throughout the rest of the game level. So that's kind of cool, I think. That's kind of, it almost makes me think of video games as more theater than film, because there's such an emphasis on doing it live. So I think that's kind of interesting to me. But let's come back here. Here's the train yard where we begin in. Notice that, like, the top of this bridge, there's nothing on top of this bridge, right? And there's nothing on top of that bridge because you don't need anything on top of that bridge. When we were down here looking up at that bridge, I mean, even assuming you even turned around and looked behind you, which is very rare in video games, you don't need to see the top of that bridge. It's not there, so that's why they didn't put one there. Similarly, you don't need to see the top of these walls or the top of this or anything. It's purely just set design. It's purely just what is necessary to communicate this idea that we're in a city. Let's keep going and come back where we left off. So here we are. They have luggage and stuff. This is what we might call environmental storytelling, right? There's all this abandoned luggage here, but where are the people who brought that luggage, right? So it's kind of evoking kind of this eerie kind of dystopian concentration camp vibe, I think, where there's all these discarded human belongings, but no humans to be found. Keep going. There's a broken clock.
You have chosen or been chosen
keep going.
to relocate to one of our finest remaining
And then you listen to this
centers.
guy talk. Again, we
so much
saw where
of
the live
Space
feed was
17
actually
that
being
I
piped in
elected
from
to
elsewhere in the
establish
game world.
my administration
There's also other
in
stuff.
the
There's more
citadel so
suitcases
thoughtfully
that people
provided
left
by
here.
our
There's a lot of, what's this, like a
I've been
bleach
proud to
container?
call
Why?
City 17
There's this
my home.
milk container? Why are people
And
just
so,
leaving
whether you
milk
are here to
everywhere?
stay or
That's strange. Or is that,
passing
is this
through
like
on
a,
your way to
like
parts
a,
unknown,
yeah, that's bleach. Why are you leaving bleach
City
around? I don't know
17.
who would bring bleach to a
It's safer
dystopian
here.
city. Over here, here's a payphone. What's weird is that this is supposed to be an East European city, but then this is in English, so that's kind of weird. And this is a very, like, New York American kind of phone. But of course there's no wire being connected to it, so that's kind of sad. And over here we see an alien from the previous game sweeping. That alien is a janitor, I guess. And that's the alien's overseer, I guess.
Welcome to City 17.
So there's a lot of exposition
You
in
have
the,
chosen
like,
or
just
been
straight up in the
chosen
very
to
beginning of this
relocate to
map,
one of
but
our
there's
finest
also a lot more
remaining
subtle
urban centers.
exposition. going on too, I think. Also, just this room, I think, is just really just gorgeously constructed. Like just the fact that like wires were just so painful to do in the Half-Life 1 engine and in older engines. So when Half-Life 2 and Source, they actually implemented this custom system where you can just kind of draw the wires in the editor instead of modeling out the actual cord. And that just makes it so much easier to make wires, and they're also like physically simulated too. You'll see later in this game. What else is really interesting here? I really like just the way they have all these shadows going on here. Like that's just gorgeous. It's like the way they have all this sunlight just filtering in here. What's interesting is that this isn't actually like sunlight, right? That might as well just be a random ceiling, but they have it just emitting light in this really great, beautiful way that's producing really distinctive shadows, I think. And just the play of shadows on all the walls just makes this just... again, they're kind of trying to demonstrate to the player that, oh my god, look at all these graphics. We couldn't do this before, but now we can. So let's keep going. There's little vignettes on the way here. This guy's frozen, I guess. I don't know what his deal is. Okay. Well, I'll just keep going. Go through this turnstile. She's asking if we're the only ones on this train, but she'll just stay frozen in that position. So this is just kind of... oh, in the chat, they're reminding my turns targeting off. Oops.
It's all I have left.
So again, they're like building on that tradition of scripted sequences that we saw a lot, that Half-Life 1 is very famous for. They still have all these characters looking and talking to us, and this time they have enough texture memory to make them all look different, so that's even more impressive. And then all these lockers are of course interactive, so you can find like an old boot or something there. Again, just look at all these details. In 2004, which is when Half-Life 2 came out, this was all pretty impressive stuff. And just the idea that I could pick up this boot... Oh, oops, I'm standing on the boot. Just the idea that I can pick up this boot and like throw it was like mind-boggling. Physics engines were totally new at this time. Well, not totally new, but pretty new. Keep going. This is a very common trick that we see reused from Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2. Notice to enter from this large chamber and atrium to that large chamber and atrium, we're kind of walking through this smaller corridor. And the reason you might do that is, I mean, so that you can produce this nice contrast between lighting, right? This is like a dark, shadowy corridor. But what's also really nice about this is that it makes this room feel much bigger when you come from a small room. So look out for that trick again and again and again throughout a lot of this game. When you have a big room, you start that big room with a small room so that the big room feels bigger. As we walk around, there's this guy.
Don't drink the water. They put something in it to make you forget. I don't know how I got here.
And then he says some weird thing about not drinking the water. Again, subtle storytelling stuff, right? So now you're thinking about like, oh, what does he mean by water? And then later you'll see what they mean by water, and then there's a whole ecological narrative about oceans and stuff. Let's keep going. Again, I just like the lighting. I mean, here I feel like they could have increased the light resolution here. It's kind of blurry and blocky here, but, you know, they were doing their best. Oh, there's this guy walking here.
And the ones that do are
all the trains are frozen. There's all these random people you can talk to.
I see they took your suitcase too. They can't get away with this much longer.
Lip syncing. Half-Life 2's like facial animation, lip syncing is still like super famous, I think, in games. And
To go on.
a lot of games I think still struggle to do to like match that quality, and it's like a 13-year-old game, so that's kind of impressive, I think. I think Half-Life 2 has really stood the test of time, and if you follow the rest of my reading or writing or whatever, you'll know that I kind of hate Doom 3, and I pose Doom 3 as like a game that hasn't stood the test of time at all. Meanwhile, I think Half-Life 2 really has. Let's keep going. We have to keep following this sequence. What I like about the design of this room is that it's kind of non-linear. Like, they could have just made you go directly here, but they kind of let you do a loop-de-loop around this closed newsstand, right? And these kind of like small loops and small open areas kind of help us feel like it's more of a real space, and instead of this really shuffly kind of constrained space. I think some games really overdo it to the point that it really destroys your suspension of disbelief. Like, if you play a Call of Duty kind of game, it usually goes way too much with the illusion of non-linearity, but I think this is kind of like the right amount. It's like a sweet spot. Let's keep going. And then we walk through here. We thought, oh, what if I can follow her? No? Can I follow her? Oh, no. And then they push you back and stuff. That's kind of a nice interaction, I think. And then you might go, oh, am I supposed to go there? Oh, no. That computer took pictures, that camera took pictures of me. What's going on, right? And then this guy tells you to go in. And then, this movement is kind of ruined because they kind of showed this at E3 all the time.
Be a mistake. I got a standard relocation coupon just like everybody
But presumably, like, at the time when you first played this in 2004, you were like, oh my god, what's going on? Oh no, I'm gonna get killed and eaten alive over here. I like the lights, but it's kind of weird how they have two different light fixtures in here. Like, it's, and then like the spotlight effect on it, it's just kind of like too much. I don't think these kinds of lights project that kind of spotlight, like cone effect down like that. It's kind of a strange choice, I think. But I think the two different light colors and two different temperatures do help kind of like guide you over there. This is kind of too warm, kind of, or like human maybe, and will throughout the game will associate cold or blue light with like the authoritarian faction in this game, which are called the Combine. Let's walk in here. And he says, no, I'm good. He's using slang.
About that beer I owed you. It's me, Gordon. Barney from Black Mesa. Hey, sorry for the scare.
He looks nothing like his Half-Life 1 counterpart,
I've been working
basically,
undercover
but
with
the
civil
voice actor's the
protection.
same,
I
which
can't
is some
take
nice
too long or they'll get
continuity.
suspicious. I'm way behind on my beating quota.
Yes, Barney, what is it? I'm in the middle of a critical test.
Again, remember
Sorry,
that
Doc,
camera
but
feed is
nothing's
actually
here.
happening from somewhere else in the game world in real time, so that's kind of cool.
I expected more warning.
Yeah, you and me both, Doc. He was about to board the express.
And again, notice, in Half-Life 1, a very popular trope was you enter a room, and then the doors lock, and then you have to listen to people talk to you. This is kind of the same thing, and Half-Life 2 kind of leans on it even more, where we're constantly walking into rooms, the room shuts door and locks behind us, and now we're stuck in this room
Okay,
and have
Gordon,
to listen to these
you're gonna
people
have to
talk
make
at
your
us.
own way to Dr. Kleiner's lab. Oh, man, that's what I was afraid of. Get in here, Gordon, before you blow my cover. Pile up some stuff to get through that window and keep going till you're in the plaza. I'll meet up with you later.
Oh. And then you can't go back in. So then here's more luggage and stuff. Here's kind of a tutorial where you learn how to climb ladders. This is the first ladder you learn to climb in the game. If you followed us for Half-Life 1, you'll notice that ladders in Half-Life 1 were just one of the worst things ever. They were just so dangerous. Every time you tried to get on a ladder in Half-Life 1, you were probably gonna die, pretty much, because it would like just throw you into some toxic waste or something. Here in Half-Life 2, ladders are actually much better, and the system for with the ladders in Half-Life 2 is just so much nicer. You just climb up here, and you're actually stuck on this track. You actually have to draw out a spline when you make ladders in Half-Life 2, which is actually, well, not a spline, but like a point and line system. So it's actually much smoother. And usually you have to like rub yourself against the ladder to be able to climb it, because it was using a hack where when you rub against the ladder, it thinks you're swimming, and then that's why you can go up and down the ladder. But here, you can see we can actually press E on a ladder, and we'll snap to the ladder. So if you ever have troubles with ladders in Half-Life 2, just remember you can press E to snap to the ladder. One interesting thing about this segment is it's kind of teaching you how to use boxes, and it kind of wants you to be like, oh, look at all these boxes and look at all this physics stuff you can do, right? And you can actually break these boxes, I think. Or maybe you can't. Let's try to ruin this puzzle. What if we throw all the boxes down there? Can we still get up here? No, I don't think so, right? Or what if we tried to break all these boxes, right? I don't know how we'd break it without a crowbar, though. I think I broke this puzzle. I don't think I can climb with this. Oh wait, I can climb it with it too. Anyway, notice they put these fences here so that you don't do something like terrible and stupid like that. Anyway, let's just keep going, I guess. And then you fall on that. That's it kind of reminds me of the very first level of Super Mario, where you kind of have no choice but to like jump on stuff and see what happens when you hit certain blocks. And here we just learned that boxes are in fact destructible just by falling on it. So that's kind of a cool little bit of tutorializing and learning that's like really subtle and automatic, actually. Here's a cute little courtyard. I like the little details. I mean, this is like a very blocky kind of courtyard, but I don't know, I kind of like the mood here, though. And this is also the kind of weird, nowhere kind of sunlight corridor that, I mean, there'd be more windows here, but this is kind of a very common structure you see in a lot of urban building. Let's go ahead and go through here. And then here, another bit tutorializing. This door is locked because there's a padlock on it. I mean, the padlock isn't actually attached to anything. Like, it actually doesn't make sense why this door is locked at all if you look at how the padlock is attached to it, but it doesn't matter. We're now trained to see if we see a padlock, we can't open that door, and that'll kind of come in handy later on in the game too. I also just like the lighting contrast in between. Just really, really gorgeous how they have this interplay of really dark ceilings and then really dark side areas. It does feel like we're kind of like wandering through this random like behind the scenes warren of this train station. And we come into here again, very small hallway, very large atrium right here. And now here's some very formal tutorializing, where you have to pick up this can and then put it in the trash can. But what a lot of players end up doing is this, where you throw it at him instead as a little bit of resistance, and then he kind of hits you. Or you can keep throwing cans at him. Where did the can go? Oh, right here. So then you finally comply, and now he lets you go. And now we enter here. I really love this room as well. I think just like the pattern of lights on here, it's just really, really gorgeous. All the windows here are especially gorgeous too. Like, it's just like, I think this just holds up really, really well. This still has like a beautiful, subtle, like photographic quality to it, even though this game is 13 years old, and it still looks pretty good, I think. Here are more scripted sequences, and here they're still building on a lot of the scripted sequence technology that they had in Half-Life 1. Here, all these people are scripted to come up here, pick up their little food ration packet, and then walk away. So there's a lot of like nice ambient movement stuff going on. Let's just keep going. One other really nice thing that they do with the lighting in this game is over here you see this big floodlight, and it has a really weird shape to it. That's because it's like an alien floodlight, a combine floodlight. And what's really nice is that it's projecting this really bright, cold blue light out from where you're supposed to go. So this one really good example of maybe using lighting to kind of get the player to notice entrances and exits in the room. So this is kind of how you do some wayfinding here. You project a light out of the doorway, and because you have all this light flooding out of the doorway, we know that there's something there, and we're usually attracted towards there. Again, obviously, in a lot of games, like if this were a stealth game, we might avoid the light or tiptoe around the light or be more careful around it. But generally, we do gravitate and notice lighted areas in games. Let's keep going here. I think these light fixtures are kind of unnecessary, though. Like, it kind of flattens out this room in a weird way. Anyway, let's just keep going. And we enter this huge, huge station square. It's this escalation of bigger and bigger rooms until we finally reach the biggest room. What's cool about this, well, not cool, but interesting, is that notice they break the line of sight here. Notice we're in this room full of all these benches and little details everywhere, and then they make us walk all the way around and then open that door here. It's really hard to see into the station square as well as seeing into this room as well. And that's a really important lesson when you're designing video game environments. You usually want to block the line of sight with what this might be like an S-shaped or U-shaped corridor so that we can't see into both of these complex, detailed environments. Oh, well, complex for 2004. As you walk in here, also just this room and this room is just really beautiful too. So big, so huge, just a really beautiful sense of scale to everything. All these little buildings everywhere. One really great innovation of working with, of working in the Half-Life 2 engine is that they have what's called this 3D Skybox system. I think Quake 3 pioneered it, where to build a skybox, you build a little skybox room elsewhere in the map. So when we're here and we're looking out everywhere and we see all these buildings in the distance, those buildings in the distance, kind of like with the little photo studios we were looking at before, are actually in a little model village, like a little miniature model village elsewhere in the world over here. So this is the actual skybox we were looking at here. So it takes this camera view and then kind of renders another pass in when we're inside the actual game world. And that also helps make this miniature skyscraper look much, much bigger. Let's just come back out here where we left off. Oh, in the chat, someone's asking where the urinals and walls come from at the top of my Twitch page. Those are mine. That's for my game. Thank you for the compliment. I totally did not. I will pay you later. Thank you for that compliment. But in the meantime, let's keep focusing on this station square. They have a variety of different like buildings here. Here's like a closed studio storefront here. What's really nice is that they have all these buildings kind of separate. Like they have all these separate little extrusions everywhere. That's really nice. That's what like a city street actually kind of feels like. One thing I think they could have done better, I mean maybe it's not like this in Europe, but I think one thing they could have done better is actually, at least in New York, we have little gaps. We usually leave little gaps in between the buildings. And I usually like doing that if I'm building a city environment. I usually like leaving little gaps in between the buildings too. Again, all these little details here. What's also really nice about Half-Life 2 is that they finally have all this texture memory budget that they can just go to town everywhere. There's just these beautiful texture sets here where they have really nice differentiation. Stuff with the like this basement concrete foundation area, and then they have all this. Then they have a first level down here, and then it's just all this differentiation with the building, different building heights. It's just really, really great. Let's just keep walking around. Again, really beautiful. The NPCs can sit, but we cannot. Unfortunately, this isn't Skyrim. We can't sit on any of the benches in this game, unfortunately. But, you know, we can imagine ourselves sitting, maybe, when we see someone else sitting there. Keep going here. Again, one orthodoxy that is in a lot of level design of this era is the idea that you're supposed to build inaccessible areas that are kind of walled off from the player. So the idea is that when you build inaccessible areas out, but the player can peer into them, it makes it seem like it's a larger world. And then the player thinks, oh, am I supposed to be able to get to there sometime? I don't know. The downside of this kind of attitude towards level design is that you end up having all these locked doors everywhere, all these fake doors everywhere. In Half-Life 2, I think they do a pretty good job of signaling which doors are openable and which are not. These doors obviously are not openable because they have these weird alien metal devices on them, so we can't open them. But here you can see the doors over here are very openable, and these have doorknobs too. So that's one way where you have to differentiate between and signal to the player also in really subtle ways what is a reachable area and what's just like a decorative area. And I think, oh god, he was in my way. And this is of course an unreachable side area. This is not meant to be construed as a playable area we should try to get into. Let's keep going over here. Now, for 2004, this was very, very, very detailed. For 2017, this is basically barren. This is like very, very barren. You would, in the 2017 Prestige FPS, I mean, just look at maybe the new Deus Ex for an example of how you would do this. You'd have trash everywhere, you'd have plants everywhere, you'd fill this station square with like 30 more NPCs. You would just have so much more going on. You'd have little stalls of people standing there. What I kind of admire about this era of level design is that it's kind of this middle point, maybe awkward middle point, between this really blocky, barren era and then this super detailed, super dense era of level design where we're just filling every open space with stuff, and we're so anxious that the player will find a space that's too barren and too bland. And here I think the sparseness lends the space a kind of like poetry a little bit. It doesn't feel necessarily realistic, it feels very stylized, the idea that you would make this area so blank and so barren and empty, but I think it works. It's the idea that this city is kind of dead, that there is no public life out here. even under an authoritarian government.
Let me assure you that
Oh, in the chat, someone makes a very good point about the door handles here. The hardware on this makes no sense. These types of doors, you would double doors, you would not have turning door handles like that. You would have different hardware. Except, oh, she just opened it without... That's something else you would not see these days. You would have to have an animation of a character actually pulling that doorknob. You can't just automatically open doors now like that. But Half-Life has a very limited range of doorknobs, unfortunately, so that's why they were just stuck with these doorknobs, even though they make no sense. Let's keep going. So as we go here, we see little vignettes out on our way as we progress. There's a little room, and we can't quite peek in there. And it's actually really, really clever how they angle the doors and stuff. You can never really quite get a good look at what's happening there. And if you try to get too close, they of course push you back and punish you. Fortunately, we have cheat codes that will let us bypass authoritarianism and enter this room and see what's going on. And it's actually pretty barren. What's kind of interesting is that they have this NPC right here, even though you can't actually see them. That's actually kind of interesting. I wonder why why this third NPC is here, even though you can't even see him. He's not even holding a baton here. But pretty barren. You're not meant to be in this room, of course. Let's keep going. So you might see here. Here's a really cool vehicle. I think like the industrial design on Half-Life 2 is by a concept artist guy named Viktor Antonov. He's a very famous concept artist in the video game world. If you've played Dishonored, you might have noticed Dishonored 1 was kind of criticized as looking very similar to Half-Life 2, and that's because they literally hired the same artist. So a lot of like cool angular forms and shapes to it that just make it feel like these are really cool. These Nazis are really cool. These weird space alien Nazis are just so cool and have a really cool aesthetic, I guess. Let's keep going here. Now, what struck me when I was playing Half-Life 2 back in 2004 was that look at how round this tower is. Oh my god. This cylinder, I think, has like 20 sides. It's like a 20-sided cylinder to it. That's so many polygons, right? Let's even turn on the wireframe for this, too. God, look at all those polygons right there. In Half-Life 1, this would be considered positively gratuitous, disgusting, that you would make a round object so round. Oh my god. But back in 2004, I had never seen such a round object before in my life. I was just so floored by the idea that I could put cylinders, as many cylinders in my levels as I wanted. Oh my god. And look at how beautiful like the reflections are when you have a rounded object. You'll notice if you play a lot of my games, I often have a lot of rounded, shiny cylinders in my environments, just because I just love shiny cylinders, I think. And that's really why there are so many pipes and barrels in video games as well. That lets you show off the fidelity of your like reflection system and your shaders really nicely. Let's keep going here. So then, of course, they light this because we're supposed to go and we're supposed to notice this right here. I'm actually surprised this ladder is not, like, bright red. That's actually really, really interesting. It's just like a mild cream. It's very understated, almost. And then notice this crate doesn't collapse. Because again, remember when we landed on that crate before and it broke, and then we landed on this crate and it didn't break? That's because the height we fell from wasn't that much. So now we're internalizing all this game feel and game physics stuff, right? Like, oh, if I fall from a height too tall of a height, it'll break something. But if I fall from a short height, it won't break stuff. And we're learning about all this materiality about navigating in the world. Just by traversing it. Keep walking over here. Again, we just keep following these lights. Wherever there's a spotlight, I'm just like a bug. I'm just supposed to gravitate towards that like a moth or something.
This is how it always starts. First the building, then the whole block. They have no reason to come to our place. Don't worry, they'll find one.
It's also, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think back in 2004, I didn't mind them having the same voice actor, but now it's almost like a being John Malkovich effect now. Now I'd read this as like, oh, Gordon Freeman has some kind of mental illness, and these are all just like these people are all just figments of his imagination or something. Because now I would assume a AAA studio has resources to hire a bunch of voice actors instead of just one. Let's keep going. Like all these trees, and then here's a little bit of a playground where we can play with it a little bit. Kind of fun to play with these. You can also kind of push these swings too. Again, this is Valve showing off their physics stuff by enabling you to have all these weird physics interactions. You can even jump on this seesaw and it goes up and down. You can even play with the seesaw by putting these cinder blocks here. That's why they literally put cinder blocks right next to this seesaw. Very impressive. Can I put this on the swing? And then of course, there's also this very creepy baby. Very, 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 very creepy baby. It like makes a weird sound when you pick it up too. And it's like missing limbs and eyes and stuff. Ugh. I wish there was like a Half-Life achievement for just carrying this baby with you throughout the entire game. It can be called like a Rosemary's Baby achievement or something. Too bad these like monkey bars aren't physically simulated. And then of course we can go on this, we can literally ride this, which is kind of cool. Again, literally a little physics playground, physics zoo, physics demo thing that we can play with. One interesting thing about this era of technology, notice this tree is actually lit at the root of the base, which doesn't make sense because the base of this tree is actually in shadow. And that's because in Half-Life 2, the props and models and stuff were actually lit based on vertex lighting, or based on one point. They weren't actually light mapped. So this one tree, this whole object, has to have the same lighting direction on the whole thing. That's why the base of it is in shadow. Let's keep going. Again, the same trick. We can peer into that little door, but we can't quite go in there. So that's kind of like an interesting role-playing thing. Oh my god, I'm gonna run away from him. Maybe I should throw the baby at him. Oh my god, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna run into this level change. Oh, and here's the other boot. Remember the boot from the beginning of the game we found in the train station? There's the other boot, I guess. Let's keep going. Again, I just really love the look of this game. Light map density, here you can actually see the actual literal pixels of the light map here. You can see a square there and a square there. These are called luxels when you're lighting a game, and it's kind of low density. That's where this game kind of shows its age, unfortunately. Modern AAA game today wouldn't be caught dead with all these blocky light maps. Keep going. I also just love how dirty and layered this place feels like. It's really— oh, there's another boot. And a milk crate. I love these milk crate props. Oh my god. And I love how they actually cast a shadow. If you look at the shadow underneath, right, it's actually casting a shadow through the grate. Really beautiful. Oh, we're missing some of the story. I was looking at the milk crate, sorry. So we're supposed to wander through here. At least they still have, like, Chinese food and milk, I guess.
As a species, immortality is in our reach.
I feel like these are actually really big milk cartons, like, compared to the human scale, right? That's like a jumbo carton of milk. Actually, maybe that's not too big. I don't know. The scale in Half-Life 2, I think, is very interesting. It's kind of very realistic, but it's also a little bit cartoony in a way, too, I feel like. Let's keep walking through here.
Oh.
Again, that TV is literally coming from another little mini film studio somewhere else in the map. You can look outside. That APC is scripted to drive in right when we approach the window. Very Call of Duty effect here. Oh, and here's a really nice detail. They actually have this TV plugged into this electrical socket, and then you can pick up the TV and then unplug it. That's kind of cool. Oh, and then here's the missing block from the playground. So there's all these weird secret little, like, Easter egg mysteries, I think, in this game. Let's keep going. I also just love the furniture in this game. I wrote an article for a zine coming out soon called Heterotopias. It's a really great video criticism thing about architecture, and they have a really great mission. And I wrote a little bit thing about the different chairs in this game. So, like, the chair right here, this is actually a very famous chair. It's called the number 14 chair. Very famous in Europe, one of the most famous chairs in Europe. Very cheap. It's a bent wood chair that was developed in, like, the middle of the 19th century. And it was super cheap. It basically cost about the price of a bottle of wine or something. So this is a very common, everyday, everyman kind of chair. And you'll still see this chair everywhere in Europe and even outside of Europe, because it's a beautiful chair. It's really elegant, uses very few pieces here. And that's also, I think, where Half-Life 2 is kind of communicating it through their choice of props and stuff. This is like a really good prop to use to help us characterize these people, where it's kind of beautiful, but also kind of run down and kind of a shitty chair in the end. But it's also kind of well used, you can imagine. Like, it's tasteful. The human civilians in this game are very tasteful. I mean, kind of. There's like a mattress on the floor, a soiled mattress on the floor, but, you know, you can't win them all. Ooh, I really like the glass shader through here, too. So this is super gratuitous. This is just a total waste of resources, I think. The glass on this door does not need to refract at all, but they do this so that you can see how expensive this game is. Let's keep going. We're not supposed to go in there.
He's gonna be okay.
Oh, I like this little fireplace. That's a nice detail.
Of course, your question touches on one of the basic
In the chat, I'm told I should throw the TV out the window. That's kind of cool. Let's keep going. Oh, and then here's a rundown bathroom. And then here's something that's I think really beautiful in games. Little dead ends. Little side rooms that serve no purpose, and there's no reason for you to be there, but you can go there anyway. And they're there so that the logic of the space can cohere and it can exist. The layout of this is actually just really, like, realistic and plausible, actually. Turn clear on. Like, I really like this is the floor plan of some tenement apartments. That's how they would actually be laid out, maybe. There wouldn't be that many gaps between the units. It would be kind of drywall in between, very thin layers and stuff, connected by this, like, central access corridor thing. I think that's just really, when we talk about realism in games, realism is not just about the textures and stuff, but realism is also about the structure of our spaces too. Keep going. If you try to go the wrong way, they literally put guards in your way, so let's go up here.
With your civil protection team. Tenant full ration reward.
Hey, you! In here!
Oh, and then this guy's telling me to come in.
Head for the roof!
What's up?
There's no time to lose! Here they come!
Oh, and then people are yelling. Oh, and then, oh my god, we're being attacked, and I just went in this corner, oh my god, and then I died. I'm really surprised they had that corner in there. Like, I feel like that probably happened while Valve was playtesting it. I think the Valve of 2017 would have blocked off that corner that I got trapped in, because they wouldn't want the player... It's pretty easy to get stuck here, right? Because you're like, oh, what's over here? Oh my god. Okay, let's keep running, though. And they're just killing everyone in sight. Oh, they're killing all these NPCs. Oh my god. And this is just a very brilliant, famous sequence, too. Like, it feels very urgent, very scary, but it's all choreographed and pretty well designed and well paced, I think. I think the door never actually bursts, though. Because then they would actually have to animate the door bursting open, and then they would have to actually animate the guy falling down. So, yeah, I think they don't actually do that, which is kind of interesting. Let's keep going up here. Oh, I love this floor. I really like wood parquet floors, because they're like... Anyway, okay, let's just play the game. So, I'll keep going. In the chat, they're asking, is the door just animating by itself? And the answer is yes. It's just a door shaking by itself. It's not actually simulating someone pushing it back and forth. Because why bother? You can't even see on the other side of the door, and they're not going to show you the door bursting open anyway. Let's go up here. I really like this attic, too. And I really like these like chairs here. It's just really well done and really detailed. I love the beams that they built up here, too. Oh. Oops. Ah, okay, better run away. And then this chase sequence is kind of famous in video games too, as an example of just a really great, well-done chase sequence here. Again, it feels super, super urgent, even though it's pretty easy to outrun them. They can't even follow me up there. Let's just keep going here. I also like how Valve actually puts all this clutter. We're kind of just following this trail of garbage. And when we follow the garbage, that leads us to where we're supposed to go. And it feels like you're improvising this route, but again, we're just going exactly where we're supposed to go already. And then we're getting shot at, but there's no real danger of dying, as far as I know. Keep walking, and then might try to go here, but then we have to go in this window instead, I think. One interesting change from Half-Life 1. In Half-Life 1, I would have had to crouch jump into that window, but in Half-Life 2, they've realized that crouch jumping is a terrible mechanic to force people to learn, so I had to jump through that window. Instead, I could just jump like I normally could. Oh, I really love the shape of this wall right here. I like that it follows the shape of the roof a little bit. It's kind of nice. Anyway, let's just keep going. Again, this door isn't openable because there's no doorknob, and I should have known better. Oh well, sorry. Keep going, follow the garbage, go down into this room. Oh. And then they break the stairwell so you can't run backwards.
No, you don't.
and it was a trap, but I was saved
Dr.
by
Freeman,
this
I
new
presume.
character we're being introduced to.
You better hurry. The Combine can be slow to wake, but once they're up, you don't want to get in their way.
And we don't even know her name. And I think that's maybe a good place to stop
Dr.
right
Carter
now.
said you'd be coming.
Let's go ahead. Thanks for tuning in. Next time we'll keep playing Half-Life 2. Hope you enjoyed the past hour or so. And thanks for hanging out. See you next week. Bye.